Senator Toomey, thank you very much for being here. I know your time is tight, and I appreciate your remarks about Dr. Shulkin. I appreciate all the work you've done to help the Veterans Affairs Committee. So you'll be excused. We won't hold it against you because you got to vote, and so do we.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Shulkin, we're going to have brief remarks by myself and the ranking member, and then it'll be your turn at the microphone. I want to tell everybody about the first time I met Dr. Shulkin. It was on a Delta airplane flying to Washington, D.C., where I've met most of the people I know in my life. It seems like between Delta and coming to Washington, D.C. And I had just come from a meeting in my office with an anesthesiologist in Georgia who had a concern and a question about the VA and anesthesiology and nurse anesthetists and all those types of things, a complicated issue, which is not the most important part. The important part is that Dr. Shulkin recognized me and came over and gave me his card and said, "I'm David Shulkin." I said, "Well, I know who you are. We're going to have you before the committee pretty soon." He said, "Yeah, on Tuesday." That's when we had his confirmation hearing as undersecretary. I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, let me give you this card that I just received in my office from this anesthesiologist who has a concern with VA and anesthesia. Would you call him if you get a chance?" I got to the office the next morning. Dr. Shulkin had not only called him, but had called him and spent about 3 hours on the phone with him. And when I got to the office, I had a call from Dr. Shulkin to let me know he had talked to him, and a call from the doctor to tell him how satisfied he was that Dr. Shulkin cared enough to call him. That's what you look for. That's the tender, loving care that we look for in all executives that's rarely ever there. And in a job like Veterans Health Care, that type of service and attitude is important. So I also want to remind David of what he did that day. And that was my first day I knew if I cast a good vote for him, I would. Secondly, let me just make these remarks. All the members are going to have a lot of questions later on, and I know John's going to make remarks after I do. It's very important that we complete the task of getting open accessibility to our veterans to health care, but we make everybody understand we're not about privatizing health care for the veterans. We're about making health care more available to veterans through implementation of the private sector and the Veterans Administration. We don't want to privatize it. We want to empower it. Second, we know that we still have wait times far too long on appeals. If we have one goal after getting choice fixed, if we have one goal we've got to attack, that's to get the wait time on appeals down, and I mean way down. And I think it's doable if we on the committee do our job working with the appropriators, and if the VA does its job in telling us what it really needs to do to speed up that process, whatever it might be. And I'm committed to accomplishing those two things in this 2-year term on the committee. With that said, I'm really lucky as a chairman to have had a great ranking member in Richard Blumenthal the last 2 years who helped the whole committee unanimously pass through the United States Senate the Veterans First bill last year, the last day of the session before Christmas. We made a lot of steps forward, but we didn't make the ones we needed to, and we didn't make all of them. But John Tester will replace Richard Blumenthal as ranking member, and I still am blessed to have the best ranking member I could possibly have. He's a good friend. He cares about veterans. I enjoy working with him a lot, and with that said, I'll introduce John Tester.